Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining in today. So sorry for the delay that we've had. Um, there's been a slight issue technically which we had to sort out, and that's why a bit of a delay. Um, right. Right. I sorry, there was some disturbance there. Right. So today is another session of. Let me switch my webcam on. Um, right. So there's a little different environment for me. I've traveled. I've reached a new city. So, um, yeah. But primarily, what we are going to discuss today is the PTQ format and how to prepare for that. And have you prepared for that already? All right. So that's one set of the topics which is primary and which is very important for all of you. The second thing is part B, how to prepare and last minute tips. But that I'm pretty sure you're all are familiar with. But there's another aspect that we are covering today, which is um, which is what are the last minute tips that you need to take to that you need to prepare for just before the exam, before going into the exam. There is different aspects when you are traveling to a center, and there's different aspects when you are taking it from home. So you need to be prepared for that. All right. um, but before we go ahead, oh, and by the way, we have architect Leanne Pice today who's going to be doing this presentation. And she's of course, she's worked as an architect for many years. She's graduated from Manipal Institute from Manipal Institute of Technology in those days when um, you know probably in about 2004 2005 is when she was there, and she's worked with the top architects all across India, and including Total Environment in Bangalore. We'll come to her in a little while. Um, but yeah, but before we go ahead, number one is I would like you all to, uh, you know, like this webinar and subscribe to the DQ Labs, um, channel, YouTube channel. Okay. And also a request for you to follow us on Instagram. All right. Um, Now, tomorrow we are doing a webinar with Christ University School of Architecture, Bangalore. So please don't forget don't forget that. I will share that link with you tomorrow. So don't forget that. Also, if you do have any questions, you can type it out here in the small little box. And like we said, there's if you need more information on DQ Edge, regarding PTQs, it's on DQ Edge and how you can prepare for that. I will hand this over to Leanne. All right. So, Leanne, are you available?
Yes.
All right, all right. Thank you so much for making it, Leanne. For those of you who do not know Leanne heads our DQ labs in Mangalore, and she's been doing a fabulous job. So I think Sanmita Pai last year, who was ranked 7, is from DQ Labs Mangalore, and she was there on a call a couple of weeks ago. All right.
Yeah, she made us very proud.
Yes. All right. Just so that everyone knows, the design hackathon that we were talking about over the last few weeks uh, has happened yesterday and day before yesterday, and we will be announcing these. There's a social like to this, so please follow us on our Instagram pages and our Facebook pages, and you to get more updates. All right. Leanne,
Yes.
yes, over to you
Okay.
to take it from here.
Yes.
So are you going to be doing it as a conversation, or are you going to be doing it as a presentation?
It'll be a mix of both. So first of all, I'd like all the students to reset your minds and realize what this exam is about. Okay. All this while you all have been answering exams which are of a total different purpose. What you're doing here with NATA is trying to tell the examiner why you should be the one who should get that architecture seat amongst all those thousands who are answering this exam. So it's an aptitude test. And if you enter the exam knowing that that's what you have to prove, you will answer properly and you will make the right choices. Okay, so let's move on to the presentation. Again, watch this presentation also with that intent, knowing that you're trying to prove why you should get that architecture seat. You'll need to.
Yeah, I just realized that.
That's so NATA 2020, it has taken a lot of turns, and right now we are on the very brink of it, where it's a new pattern, new method of answering. You're not going to the centers. Some of you are going to the centers. So try to look at all these points as a benefit rather than a setback. Okay, and don't stress yourself out. So you see our first point here says have a good sleep on the previous night of the exam. Rest and peace of mind makes a big difference. If you are going to go completely stressed, if you have done a night out the previous day of the exam, you're not going to be able to concentrate. You're not going to be able to perform the way you should. Instead, you prepare till you have sleepless nights throughout, but the day before the exam or the night before the exam, don't go to bed too late. If you want, you can wake up a little early, but get a good night's sleep. And for those of you who have opted for exam centers, I know it's probably because of the reasons that are totally unavoidable. I'd request you to be very, very cautious. This is an exam that you definitely need to attend. It's very important, but you also need to take care of yourself. There's no point risking your health. So make sure you carry a sanitizer, and I don't know whether you'll be allowed to take it inside, but make sure you've taken all the precautions. The mask also should be mandatory. I don't think they'll ask you to enter the hall without a mask. Students opting for the exam from home, keep your rooms very clean. Untidy room might create some kind of doubt. Make sure that you have a good internet connection. They will ask you to show the entire room, the 360 degrees. Make sure that in that time, there's nobody coming in and out of the room. If possible, lock yourselves in, and don't leave books and certain other materials lying around. That could also cause some kind of problems. Students who are using a laptop instead of a PC, make sure you have plugged in if you don't have battery backup. Okay. Keep paper and pencil for rough work ready, because you can't scribble on the screen, of course. So if you can quickly copy down the picture and scribble on that for certain questions which involve counting of shapes, counting of lines, it's actually easier to do if you sketch them out first and then work on that.
Yeah, Lian, on this point,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they are going to allow students to
Have
have
stationery.
any paper, pencil, or anything in the room. So I'm not sure if this is applicable, because if they have a paper or
Have
pencil,
they
then they
mentioned
may.
it?
Yes,
They would have mentioned it in the in the rules if they, I think they were not going to allow it, but rough paper is generally allowed.
Yeah, but this time I think
Yeah, okay.
they have explicitly mentioned something on those lines. I'll try and find that out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we can do that. Okay. And another thing is, NATA does not have negative marking. It has never had negative marking, and that has been a very positive point for all of us. You don't have to worry about um, whether or not your answer is right or wrong. Okay, if you don't know the answer, just guess. Just guess. Take a guess. Just select one of them. If you're lucky, you'll get it right. If not, maybe you'll get it wrong, but you won't lose anything. There's nothing to lose. So just answer every question. Okay. PTQs have been a big question mark for all of us. We have been waiting for the mock tests, hoping that we'd get a clearer picture on PTQs. Um, but I don't think that has really served the purpose. The mock test was a shorter time and didn't really give us a clear picture of what that PTQ is going to be like. But what we can do is take hints from the topics that they've given us, and we will show you some examples of what kind of questions might come. So this is where design principles, understanding, understanding color theory, and those topics become really important. When you know the basics of design, you can answer any kind of question. Okay, so for PCM questions in part B, track your time. Okay, it's only 22.5 marks. So if you end up spending too much time on those, you'd kind of you may not get the right answer in the first place, and you will probably lose time where you could have scored some marks. So if you don't know the answer, probably just select one of the options, skip it, finish all the ones that you know properly. You can come back and check on these later. Okay, so when you're absolutely sure of the answer, you're absolutely sure of getting it right. So if you feel that you're lagging or you're going slow on something, just let that select one of the answers what you think looks like the answer, and move on to the next question, and probably come back to this later. Don't waste your time. Okay, keep a track of time, about 15 minutes, whether you're going slow or fast. Okay, every 15 minutes you need to complete certain number of questions, and you should complete those. So you create milestones basically. Okay, so when you have certain number of questions, you can split the time into those questions and have milestones saying, when it's 15 minutes, I'm going to finish this many questions. And if it's 30 minutes, I'm going to finish this many questions. So the moment you start lagging behind, you'll realize you're losing out on time. Otherwise, you don't realize till you've come to the very end and you've got about 50% of the questions left, and you have only 20% of the time. So let's create milestones, and each of you do it for yourselves, because you all will know, in case you're the type who likes to go through everything slowly, or you want to go through it fast and come back to it later. Okay, for logical reasoning questions, use elimination method. That works because the wrong is more obvious than the right most of the time. So if you pick out the wrongs and you just eliminate wrongs first, then the right one you can check it for its correctness later. Okay, but it's easier to spot the wrong than to spot the right first. Okay, so logical reasoning questions, elimination method is the best. Answer the questions first. Um, yeah, that's what we said earlier also. Whatever you know, answer those questions first, and what you feel is you're not sure about, you come back to a little later.
Yeah, Lian, on that
Yeah.
note, I think this year, as per the latest brochure, they are not allowing people to go back to the questions. It
Yeah,
is only going one way. Yeah,
I
it
heard
is only
about
one way.
that, but is it officially
Yes, yes, as
come
per
out?
the
Okay,
brochure.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So they have to decide whether they know the question or not. And I think on that note, um, what we can do is allow.
Then I think
So
the milestone, I'll go back to that. The milestone method goes well. So every 15 minutes, make sure you've completed certain number of questions. And if you just run through the number of questions in your question paper and, just put a mark at certain number of questions, look at the time at that particular mark. So you're keeping up to your time. And so say every 5 questions, look at your time. Okay, so make sure your time and your number of questions are keeping up, keeping pace, right? Try to revise every topic of the NATA syllabus. I'd say when I come to this point, general knowledge is something you should do earlier, and probably towards the end too. And in between, you do the ones that really need understanding and working out and everything. You have 1 week now. Spend a little time every day on general knowledge, because it's difficult to cover it in one day. But make sure you do a little bit of general knowledge every day. Do the difficult subjects maybe somewhere during the middle of the week. Do the easy ones first and cover as many as possible. And then in the last part of the week, you can probably repeat those topics that you found really hard. Okay, so splitting your week properly now, the last leg of your preparation becomes, even if there are no drawing exams, do not practice MCQs only. Observe and analyze sketches and drawings of perspective, 2D, 3D, shadow. Practice a drawing exam and also help yourself revise the syllabus. Okay. On Edge, we have the option of uploading your drawings. And when you upload your drawings, you're supposed to evaluate your peers' drawings. Now, when you do this, make sure you look at the principles of design. Make sure you look at 2D and 3D, and make sure you make sure you look at color theory and all those things of all your peers' works. So look at perspective correctness. Is everything going to the right vanishing point, or is there an unknown vanishing point appearing somewhere? Make sure you have analyzed all those drawings, your drawings, others' drawings. It will help you with the PTQ questions. It really will. Okay, and solve past year's question papers for time management. Even though the pattern is a little different, it will help you practice this whole milestone concept, which I just explained to you. We have some mock tests on Edge again. You all can go and do those. Maybe a mock test in the morning and a mock test at the night. Begin and end your day with a mock test. That should really help you prepare. Because this is like you've prepared for a marathon, and now you're supposed to practice it. You're supposed to practice it with time. So make sure you train yourself to answer the exam now. Okay, the knowledge part, the other kinds of preparation of understanding concepts and everything should be practically over right now. And it's time to do some time training. All right. Since everyone is quite confused about the PTQs, I'm going to start with that first. Right now, I'd like to say that we are not very sure of what the PTQs are, because neither has the COA given us they've given us a pattern, but they haven't given any sample questions. They haven't given any mock tests that can give us a better idea of how the sample questions will pan out. But what we are doing is analyzing each of the topics that they have given us and trying to help you probably tackle any kind of question that might come your way, right? So there are 18 such topics that they have listed in the brochure. One is visual principles in composition. Okay, there are a whole lot of visual principles, right from elements. Okay, you have what shapes, what lines, are they converging, are they diverging, is there movement, is there rhythm, is there a focus, is there an order, is there a repetition? These are certain terms that you need to from a picture. Okay, so this I feel is a very, very important point because it helps you tackle any kind of design question. Understanding geometry. A lot of times people get confused between certain parts of a 3D object. They get confused between terminologies of shapes and objects, like a trapezoid and trapezium. They can be a little confusing. So make sure you have revisited all those, understood all those terminologies properly, and understood all the definitions properly. The ability to visualize shapes. This too is, actually, why don't we just go through the examples and I'll explain through each example. Solving geometric puzzles, spatial intelligence, color theory, color scheme, visual system interpretation and perception, spatial relationship, and visualizing, cognitive ability, ability to sketch, visualizing and drawing, light and shade effect on the object and its shadow, combining and composing three-dimensional objects, creating interesting two-dimensional compositions, creating visual harmony using colors, understanding scale and proportion, memory drawing through pencil sketches, and sense of perspective drawing. Okay, so the last few are actually talking about drawings most of the time. So I feel practicing your drawing and evaluating your drawing can help you prepare from point number 12 to 18. It's basically drawing. And analyzing drawings will help you. So look for perspective correctness, look for shading mistakes, shadow mistakes, or adding the right kind of shadow. It could be any of those kind of questions. Okay, visual principles in composition. For example, they might show you a photograph. So here we are showing you the photograph of the Empire State Building in New York. It's an international landmark, and it's an excellent example for architecture style known as Art Deco. What does the vertical characteristics of the line represent? Height, dignity and stability, strength and dominance, informality. Okay, so the last one is definitely a no, because informality is going to be more of curvilinear lines and bright colors and a sense of youth. Okay, but you might be confused between dignity and stability and strength and dominance. Now, there is a chance that there could be two answers. There's a chance that it could be one answer. But height is a little too plain, if I should put it that way. Height is not really a character of a building. Okay, so elimination of the wrong ones became easier, and then selecting between the right ones will be a bit of a job, but just read it and see which one's a better option. Okay, strength and dominance sounds a little negative, Dignity and stability sounds like something that a building would want to stand for. So make sure you make that difference, make out the difference between the right answer and the almost right answer. Um, they might give you an object like this with multiple questions. Okay, it's a 3D object. You're supposed to understand how these blocks are actually sitting one on top of the other, despite the fact that you can see only one side, as in one angle of the object, which means you can see two sides. You are supposed to know what's happening on the back faces of these objects. Okay. So in the given figure below, how many blocks does A touch? If you look at the block here, this is A, and two of its edges are visible. Two of its edges are touching two objects. The other edges are not visible, but you can make out that it should be somewhere here, and they are also touching the same objects. So A is touching 2. And in the given figure, B is touching how many objects? So B is touching, look at all the edges of B. Okay, this edge is touching A and another block behind it. And this edge is touching C, while this edge is touching one more block here, which probably is a full length block running this way, and another block here, which is also a full length block running this way. So that's B has got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 blocks touching it. So these kind of questions might come, and it's actually very simple, and be very, very calm when you're doing these kind of things, because there are certain obvious mistakes that you can make, right? In the given figure below, how many blocks is the block C touching? C is touching 2 blocks behind it and 1 block on the top. So that's 3, and 1 block at the bottom. So that's 4, right? So there is a chance you'll stop at 3 and forget about the one below. Okay. So like I did earlier, make sure you're looking at the edges of C and see where those edges or where those faces are touching, whether those faces are touching any of the blocks, right? D is touching how many blocks? So here you can see 1, 2, 3, right? And E is touching how many blocks? Now E is a central block here, and it's got 4 faces that are touching the object. So check each face and how many blocks they're touching. 1, 2, 3, and 2 below. 4, 5, right? This kind of an visual check also might happen, where they give you a 2D object and they start folding it, cutting it, punching it. These kind of questions might come in. So imagine this shape which is folded along this dotted line, right? Now, when I said look for elimination, C goes out first, right? C is definitely not your answer. A, definitely not your answer, because when you fold something that's horizontal at a 45 degrees, it should end up slanting. It should be at a 45 degrees. Okay, so it's either this or this. Now this little detail of the projection over here is missing over here. So B should be your answer. Choose the objects that make the parts that can be made from the parts shown in the image below. Okay, so first of all, in this kind of a question, I'd like you to count the objects. Make sure you have the count. Make sure you have that first, because you might notice that in the answer, that count might be wrong, right? The base, with two cylinders, and you have two rings here. You have a shape with a wedge cut kind of, two of those shapes. If you notice, C and D are similar. Okay. So you have two circles, you have the two C and Ds, and you have four cylinders. Okay, four cylinders here. So this looks right. This also looks right because you do see those two cylinders. And this one looks like this shape has come off here. And this one looks like the shape has come off here, right? So choose the object that can be made from the parts in the image below. In this case, I feel there might be a multiple option, okay, and there might be a few that are wrong. Okay. Choose the objects that can be made with a pattern below. So in this case, what I do when I get a surface development and I get a 3D object like this, the colors or the shading that they give you are a good hint, right? So say this face, for example, when I fold it, is going to be the front face of the object, right? So this is gray and this is gray. Okay, this will be the top face of the object, all whites here, that's fine. The triangle is white and I see C has it. So the answer should be C. I would like you to check it finally with the rest of the shapes as well to see whether the colors really match. Okay, the shape really matches. Color theory. Dash are obtained by mixing secondary colors and primary colors. Okay. First of all, you're mixing two colors, so you should get another color, type of color. Split complementary colors is a type of combination. It's not a type of color. Okay. Color triad, color rectangle are again combinations. So intermediate colors is the only type of color in those options. That will be your answer. What color is the result of mixing red and blue? So the color when you mix two colors is, when you mix two red and blue, is violet. This color wheel understanding becomes important over here. I would also suggest that you all look at RGB color wheels and CMYK color wheels. That will help you understand how color and light work together. Okay. They might show you a painting and ask you for the color scheme, understanding the composition and those kind of things. Okay, so here, if this is a painting by Monet, it's a water lilies. There's a series of paintings actually, water lilies, and the Japanese bridge is visible in this one. So what is the color scheme that you see over here? Okay, complementary colors, analog colors, or monochromatic colors. Okay, I'd say it's a obvious answer, but for those of you who are still understanding these terms and terminology, I'm going to explain very briefly. Complementary colors are very contrasting. Okay, I don't see much of a contrast here. There's a very serene blend of colors, and it's not at all contrasting. Triadic colors means there are three contrasting colors, and I don't see that either. Okay, I really see only again very calm and uniform kind of colors. Okay, so analog colors is the only answer I could pick from. the list. Monochromatic generally is when only one color and black and white is being used. Okay, so it's not really a black and white picture. It can also be a colored picture which has darker colors of the same color and lighter colors of the same color uh, working with it. And those kind of pictures generally are seen in logos and graphic images and ink paintings, because you're just lightening or darkening the ink, right? Coffee paintings also. What is this type of drawing known as? Okay, now what they'll show you is technical drawings. If you look up on Google, you'll see technical drawings and a variety of them. Try to guess what each of those drawings are before you actually read what they are. So when you look at this, environment plan, floor plan, top view plan, and a roof framing plan. Now, if you say top view plan, it it might I mean, top view plan might appear to be the right answer, but it isn't, because you can actually see the framework here. And in case you have not understood that it's a framework, they've even given you the names. They're saying valley, rafter, and details of little frame elements mentioned here, with sizes of the frame elements mentioned here. So it is definitely a roof framing plan. So even the little writing or the little words and dimensions that they give you on the drawing can give you a hint as to what this drawing really is. Okay, if they are particularly mentioning certain parts, then it is probably because it is that kind of a drawing. So they're mentioning the roof framing parts, and I'd say it's a roof framing drawing. Okay, right. Other kinds of questions that might come are they might show you a photograph and ask you what time of the day is it, and how did the colors help you to find out the time of the day. So you might have to write a little explanation as to what that is, or there might be explanations given there and you might have to select them, right? If you look at this picture, you see the shadows. They're kind of uh, which direction the shadows are falling in. And if you see this picture, you see a little bit of hue. You see that the shadow of this basket is at a really wide angle, and it shows that the light is kind of low. So this must be in the morning or evening, and this looks like the light is higher up, and it must be sometime during the midday, right? You might get a whole Dion. Do you want them to read this and give the answer, because it's really,
Yeah, they can do that.
yeah. So will they be answering in the chat then?
Yeah, they'll be answering in the chat, and I will moderate that.
Okay. So meanwhile, I'll just read it out anyway. Design as an fashioning things to suit human needs has been there ever since the existence of man on earth. But it is only recently that design has come into being as a specialized profession. Will I be disturbing them though, Dion?
Sorry.
Will I be disturbing them if I read it out?
Yeah, maybe you
Yeah,
can give
let them
them
read them. Yeah, let them read.
about 5 minutes. Yeah.
5 minutes. All right. So if you all have got the answer, why don't you all share it on the chat? But since it's a reading type of question, I'm pretty sure that a lot of you have just skipped it. Okay. You might also get these kind of questions where it's more of a math puzzle, but they've done it in a pictorial kind of way. Okay, most of the time when they do something so complicated, the answer is very simple. If the puzzle looks simple, then the answer is definitely complicated, right? So what you'll see here is 5, 3, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, 5, and 3 is missing. Now let's check in the horizontal as well. 5, 3, 2, 3, 2, 5, 2, 5, and 3. So both ways, 3 seems to be solved. I mean, giving you the right answer. So the answer is 3. Okay. This is the type of question where you have folding and punching holes. Folding of paper and punching holes actually is not a very complicated thing. What you need to do in this kind of a question is work backwards. Say once you've folded and punched a hole here, come to this point where you open it and see where that hole will come, 1 and 2. Okay, and generally if there's one fold and certain number of holes, it's the number of punches into 2, right? It can't be more than that. If there are 4 folds, it can get a little more complicated, so let's not go into that. So 2 answers, which ones would it be? So this one will translate somewhere here, and that's D5 and D2. So we got that as the answer. When you have 2 folds, like I said, open the fold. When you open the fold here, this hole will replicate somewhere there. And again, when you open the fold downwards, the same place at the bottom. So there'll be 4 such holes. And which are the 4 positions? It will be 1B and 6B and 1C and 6C, right? Okay. Now the folds need not always be verticals and horizontals. They can even do a complicated fold of this kind, where they folded the square portion of the paper first, and the rectangular portion they folded down onto this, and then they've punched a hole in this corner, right? So this is where now working backwards will really help you. When you open the paper to this position, there'll be a hole here and a hole here. So that's 1, 2. And when you open this flap here, that hole is going to diagonally translate into this corner. So you have 1, 2, 3 holes. And the positions will be 2A, 3A, and 6D, right? So 3A, 2A, 6D. Okay, so answer is quite clear. They have also given you an answer which has only 2 holes. You should be able to eliminate that right away because of the number of holes you're expecting, right? They might show you images and ask you to pick out the bigger circle, and these will be optical illusion kind of images. They will make something look bigger and smaller. So in this case, I'd like you to draw an imaginary line and see which one is bigger, which of the center circles is bigger. So you can draw the line that way and see that this is actually bigger, even though visually you might expect this one to be bigger. Okay, so if you see this pattern, you can see a shape within this pattern. It's a fractal pattern of repetitive similar shapes. Okay, which of these statements will be right? The patch of color in the left hand pattern is darker. So this is the left hand pattern. It's not darker. And the path of color on the right hand pattern is lighter. Actually, the right hand one is darker. Both the patterns have patches of color with the same tone, and none of the above options. So actually both these are not of the same tone. One is, one will, will not appear of the same tone, because one will appear lighter, because the fractal pattern will make it look lighter, and this fractal pattern will make it look darker because of the black that's coming between the blue. In this case, white is coming between the blue. So be very careful and look at those colors, and you'll realize that both of them are of the same shade. Shown below are the images that have different visual features. Identify the correct sequence of the visual features associated with each of these images given below. I know some of these terms might seem unknown to you all. I want you all to actually look up these terms. When you see something unknown or you do not understand what that means, you should look it up and see what actually each of those words mean, because next time the image might actually have that association and you may not know that it's what it is, right? So translation symmetry, asymmetric repetition, fractal image, Fibonacci series. You should know the meaning of each of these words. Tessellation, translation, translational repetition, symmetric repetition, fractal image, Fibonacci series, tile fractals, figure and ground images, spiral symmetry, radial symmetry, tessellation, fractal image, and rotational repetition. So now if you have had questions of what each of these is, radial symmetry is when you can draw axes passing through the same point and the symmetry is maintained on either side of those lines, right? And the axes that you're drawing are radiating from the same point. There is a center, okay? In those kind of symmetries, there's a center, and the axes will rotate through that point. In tessellation, basically what you're doing is taking a surface and breaking it into shapes. You're breaking the surface into shapes. So this is a good example actually for tessellation. You can also have triangles connected. It can be folds, folded kind of paper, and those kind of images can come in tessellation. Okay, fractal image. Look this term up properly, but in short, I'll explain to you that the bigger the parts are similar to the whole. Basically, the parts are made up of the whole shape itself. The whole image is a triangle. The parts of this image are also triangles. And most of the time, the proportions will be the same. Okay. These parts, so the bigger triangle is split into 3, 4 smaller triangles. Each of those has been split into 4 triangles. So you see, even that pattern of the bigger triangle split into 4 triangles and each triangle again getting split into 4 triangles is repeating. Okay, so when that kind of repetition happens, where you can see groups that see parts that look like the whole, then it's called a fractal image. And rotational repetition, where you see a similar shape being repeated. It's not really symmetry, it is a repetition, because you see the angle is kind of it's moving in a direction. It's not really flipping, right? When it flips, you'll see symmetry, but if it's moving in a direction, it'll be more of a repetition. Again, we have some questions with text, okay, but let's see. The city of Mumbai is facing a severe shortage of parking spaces. The problem is acute in South Mumbai, where land is expensive and undeveloped land is almost non-existent. A panel of experts consisting of city and town planners, transportation engineers, and designers, economists, historians, and policymakers have studied the problem carefully and have recommended a set of measures. Okay, first one, start a free public bicycle program in which people are encouraged to use public transport for longer distances and shared common cycles for shorter distances. Allow people to download a mobile app which will allow vehicle owners to book parking spots up to 1 week in advance. Ban vehicles with even registration numbers on the even days of the month and odd registration numbers on the odd days of the month. Make parking prohibitively expensive. Build more multi-storied and underground parking complexes. Declare the whole of South Mumbai as a heritage district to prevent any further construction and limit vehicle entry by imposing toll. Design self-parking vehicles. Create a create a carpooling mobile app that will connect people to share cars and reduce the number of cars on the road. Make the road more pedestrian friendly. Institute a parking pricing mechanism which dynamically adjusts the cost of parking based on demand and supply. Now, identify 4 recommendations that will make the most impact in solving the parking problem. This becomes a matter of opinion and social understanding, economical evaluation. You have to take all these points and make sure that you're being fair to everyone. You have to make sure that it'll actually impact in some way and not in a small way, create a stronger and better impact, right? So option D, which has the first one, that is starting a public bicycle program, will actually serve, because Bombay has a good train network, and it's only the point-to-point travel that they'll have to handle, and that can be done on cycles. The third option, which says ban vehicles with even registration number, has actually been implemented, I think, in some areas. And fifth one, build more multi-storied and underground parking complexes. The buildings that are built only for parking purpose and not for any other purposes. It's pure parking lots. And the 10th one, institute a parking pricing mechanism which dynamically adjusts the cost of parking based on demand and supply. So you can look at the rest of the options and see what is wrong with them. Okay, for example, if it is emphasizing too much on the cost, or saying charge higher, then you are kind of leaning towards the people who can afford it. So that shouldn't be your criteria. Okay, and design self-parking vehicles. It's a little, beyond our means, and make the roads more pedestrian friendly would have been a good suggestion, but considering the population and the fact that there is no scope for development in Mumbai, that becomes hard, right? So just go through the points, you will understand what is socially right, economically right, and which will actually make a huge impact rather than just a little, right? Again, I'll read through this, and it's a matter of choice. Okay. A lot of religious architecture was built or cut out of rock during the Vedic age. The remains of rudimentary sacrificial altars evidence of the same. Rock cut temples are hollowed out of mountains and seams carved out of hard stone, but have more in common in conventional buildings constructed with blocks of dressed stone that then with sculpture. The transition of the earlier wooden to stone building resulted in petrification of the forms. The heritage of the earlier periods are carefully transcribed into new materials. The gigantic Kailasa temple at Ellora is the kind of rock cut architecture exactly as the Rathas at Mamalapuram, where the monolith building was carved straight out of living rock to create an occupiable space. Which of the two would you pick? Okay, so the answer is actually only 3. The rest of them will have certain details which are not really completely right. Okay. Color theory, like I said, is an important topic, and please go through it in detail. On Edge, we have quite a bit, and it takes a little practice to understand these kind of questions. So practice it too. Okay. A circular palette of 3 pigment colors of the same quality are mixed together as shown below. Choose the correct resultant color from the options. Okay, so you have yellow, blue, red, yellow actually, and yellow, yellow, yellow. So let's take the top one to start with. Okay, when you mix yellow and blue, you'll get green. And when you mix yellow again, it will be a yellowish green. So you see here, among the 4 options, B will get eliminated. If you mix blue and red, you will get a purple. And if you mix purple and yellow, you will get a kind of a brown. Now, is that going to be a dark brown or a light brown? Okay. If you mix red and yellow again, you'll get a yellowish orange. So this is a darker orange. We'll stick with the yellowish ones. So this is wrong. This is wrong between A and D now. Okay. So the correct answer is D. All right, because to get a shade like this, you need a little more white to come in. When you mix primary colors, you're not going to get a toned down color, right? You will also get 3D puzzles of this sort, okay, a 3D maze. And the question might be asked in very different ways, but this is one example of that. Ida is standing on a structure as shown below. She wants to reach point A, B, and C, but she can only travel on a continuous surface. Which of the following statements is true? Ida will be able to reach A and B. Ida will be able to reach only C. Ida will be able to reach only A and C. Ida will be able to reach only A. So if she's standing on this surface, she has to only walk on continuous surfaces to reach, so point A. You can see this. She's continuously moving on this surface and she can reach point A. But for point B, she's going to come across an edge and it's not going to be a continuous surface. For point C, C2, okay, yeah, point C she might reach, because if she goes on this and goes down on that, no, I don't think she can reach point C either, right? So the answer is, sorry, yeah, the answer is she can reach C. She can go on this surface, go around that and get to C. And that answer might be right only because of this curved surface over here. Okay, so you have to be a little careful with 3D maze for that reason. The cutting and folding of paper we have already done. So this is where symmetry comes into play. Okay, this is a square piece of paper. You fold it along this line and this line, and you'll end up with this small square on which you're going to draw this image, right? So imagine that to be somewhere here, right? This image. It's got 3 squares with a hollow in between. It's got a outline of a square and a long rectangle. So if you see these kind of objects where there's only one rectangle, it should have been on the edge. So these two get eliminated, right? It's between this and this now. And this is the same length as the shorter square. This is longer than even the thin outline. So this seems right. D is the right answer. All right. Another kind of question that you might get is related to architectural awareness and designers, buildings, products, furniture design. Remember, there are some pieces of furniture also that are designed by architects and they have been given those names. So make sure you are looking at all these aspects when you're studying architectural awareness. Right? Given below are the images of structures and furniture and building. Which of the statements are true for the images given below? A, M and L are by the same designer. M and L are by the same designer. P and Q are by the same designer. P and Q are by the same designer. L and N are by the same designer. L and N are by the same designer. P and R are by the same designer. P and R are by the same designer. Now, I know the designers of these, but even by looking at it, you should be able to identify the style. Okay, you need not know the designer as such, but this is from Chandigarh, and the concrete in itself can tell that it's from Chandigarh. And if you look at the style, this is a monument in the area. So L and M are from the same designer. That's true. And P and Q are from the same designer. If you see the geometry, you feel that repetition of style. Okay, it's by the same designer. L and N by the same designer. If you ask L and M, you see the styles. This is very rugged and rough, and this is more smooth along the lines of Art Deco-ish. So it cannot really match, right? So even if you don't know who the designer is, make sure you can analyze the picture and guess. Which of the options describe the film shown below in the correct order? Okay. Now, in this kind of a situation, I'd probably go through the options and the pictures at the same time. Okay. So animation, adventure, interview, fantasy, comedy, documentary. Okay, so I feel maybe comedy may not really go with that. So I'm going to start again. Comedy, yes, works. Adventure, documentary, science fiction, mystery, action. It kind of goes. Okay, animation, adventure, documentary, action, film noir, and war. Yes, that also goes. Comedy, yes. Drama, maybe not really. Okay, action, definitely not. Science fiction, yes. Romance, maybe. And thriller, maybe. So you see, the one that is obviously wrong will be easier to identify than what may be right. Okay. So B and C are right. C and D are wrong because of one or two wrong words here and there, right? You can also get machine drawings and gears and pulleys and those kind of drawings where they'll ask you what will happen if something moves, or which parts are movable, which parts are fixed. Okay, so this is a similar question of that sort. You've got an image here. It is of an easel. Okay, it's kind of an easel or a tripod kind of arrangement, and you have to identify which of these joints is fixed and which of them is movable, right? So if you look at it in the open position, it becomes quite clear that the back member has to go in and out, right? It's in on this point, out at that point. So the center must be a hinge. Q must be a hinge. And also that these parts become horizontal and vertical. So those parts also should be hinged. That is T, U, and V. Okay, but if you see that, it's kind of straight there, okay, and horizontal here, okay. So P and R should be fixed, Q should be hinged. So P fixed, R fixed, P fixed, R fixed. You have three options. B gets eliminated, okay. And in this case, S has to be fixed. So let's see which one has S fixed. That is S fixed here, S fixed there. Let's check both these and find the right answer. P hinged, P has to be fixed, right? So P fixed, R fixed, correct. Q hinged, correct. S fixed, correct. TUV hinged, correct. So the last one is your answer. So you just need to take each point and eliminate which answer is wrong. Okay. You'll also get historical questions where you have to arrange something in chronological order. Look at how the construction is, how the technology is going to help, help in making these domes. Okay, so obviously the first one should be 3, right? And B and C have 3 in it. Okay, and then try to figure out the rest of them. You see how this is not yet a circle. So maybe the next one should be 2, right? And we've got 2 here. Then just check the rest for the order, because this might be confusing. But hexagon and then going into an octagon, and it will kind of help you in just looking at the geometry. It will help you understand how they slowly transitioned into the dome, right? Which of the following images belongs to Ajanta? Now this question can be quite mind-boggling, because many of us probably haven't been into inside Ajanta, and we have no clue what may or may not be from inside. Now what I can suggest is look at the elements. Okay, Ajanta, Ellora caves, and what kind of elements they might have. So if you look at the answers now, this is even more complicated. A is H, B is L, C is K and M, and D is J and I. So this kind of complication can add to your troubles. Okay. H has got a elephant in it, right? So it must be from the caves. B has got a kind of flower that you're really not very sure of, and J is It is animal, I think it's a cow. It's a bull. It's a bull here. Okay. So this may be because the style looks similar to this, and M looks similar to this, and L also looks similar, but K has got some different looking birds. Okay. So look at those objects and try and figure out which of these do not belong to the set. Okay, that kind of will clear your doubt. Okay, so which of the following images belongs? And pay attention to this: does not belong and belong. Sometimes that question can really be read wrong when you're in a hurry. Does it belong or does it not belong? Okay. Okay, the following diagram shows the population in an apartment building as per the profession of its residents. So it's doctors, engineers, businessmen, and designers. Which of the following is or are right? Doctors and businessmen combined is less than half of the total residents. So that's doctors and businessmen. Okay, it's less than half. So if I put this here, will it be less than half? About 1/3 of the population is engineers. Could this be 1/3? About 1/3. So yes, close to 1/3. Engineers and designers combined is about 60% of the residents. Engineers and designers, they're that side. So you can bring it on this side and see whether it's actually 60%. Doctors and businessmen combined is more than half of the total residents. That is, doctors and businessmen combined is more than half. So if I draw a line here, will it actually become half the circle? Doctors and businessmen. So A, B, and C are right, but D is not. Okay. D is not, because if I combine these two, I don't get half the circle. The images below show 4 different dance forms. Which state of these do these dance forms belong to? Okay. Now, some of them might be very obvious, but some you might have to look more closely into the jewelry, the clothing, and figure out which style they belong to. First one, Kerala. So Kerala, Orissa. So Orissa is definitely out, right? Second one, Orissa, Kerala, Andhra. Andhra, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala. Okay, and Assam, Orissa, Assam. Okay, so look at these 3 and find out which of them is actually from where. This could be from Kerala, right? And this might be complicated, Andhra and Assam, but look at the clothing. Okay, this clothing and this clothing. This is more Andhra, it's South Indian. This is more these motifs of these leaves. It's more Assamese. This is a tangram kind of question. I don't know if any of you have played these games, but if you have, your brain gets trained to solve these kind of problems. Okay. Here again, I'd like you to count the number of shapes first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. And then count the number of shapes in each of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So D is out. Okay. And the rest you have to check in terms of number of, so there's only one square. Make sure all of them have only one square. Yes, all of them have only one square. 2 smaller triangles and 2 bigger triangles. So 2 bigger, 2 smaller, 1 hexagon. Okay. So here you see too many small triangles. This is out. This is again 3 small triangles, and this is, it doesn't have 2 big triangles. So let's check this one. It seems like the right one. Okay. Two bigger triangles, two smaller triangles, one medium sized one parallelogram and a square. A is your answer. So you should know how to tackle the question rather than actually sit and circle each of those things. It might take much longer. Count the number of people mustaches in the picture below. Sorry, excuse me. Um, so answers are 12, 16, 18, and 22. Why I'm reading the answer first is when I start counting, I can start eliminating, right? 12, 16, 18, and 22. Let's see. Let's start counting and try to go in an order, since it'll be easier for me to do it horizontally rather than vertically because there'll be lesser lines. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just give me a minute. Right. So since, you know, we have seen all kinds of questions so far that we listed in the types of questions that we showed you. I'd like to move on to the questions which will have combination of MCQs and counting and analyzing pictures and everything. So they might give you a photograph like this, and it's a very complicated painting. Just read through the description of the painting. It'll tell you about a little bit about the background. So the moment you read the description here, you'll realize that it's a Persian kind of painting, and then they'll start asking the questions. So read through the questions. How many human and animal figures do you see within the elephant? Okay, so if you miss the within the elephant, you might count the people outside. So you're only counting within the elephant. Identify maximum color concepts that you see in this painting. So do you see a monochrome color combination? Do you see a contrasting color combination? Just mention what you can see. Identify maximum musical instruments in this painting. Okay, how many warm colors can be have been used in this painting? Describe the ambience and mood of this painting in 10 sentences. So this kind of a question might appear, okay, although we haven't seen it, but if you can analyze a picture like this, if they give you any variation on this question, you will be able to tackle the questions well. So this actually brings us back to the initial slides, okay, where we listed out all these points with you all, and it's actually pulled out of your brochure, so don't worry about copying this down. But if you go through the brochure, they have listed what topics they're going to cover in the PTQs. So just go through these topics and make sure that you understand each of the topics well. And we have shown you already how each of these topics can be translated into a question, right? So just go through those and understand the concept, then any kind of question will become easy to
All
attempt.
right. So Lian, on this note, I mean, I just
Yes.
wanted to ask a couple of questions here. All right. One of the questions is, so these students have most of them have gone through the new pattern questions on DQH.
Yeah.
So does that cover all of these type of questions?
Yeah, I think every topic that's mentioned here is in DQ Edge. Some of it, even though, like I said, the point 12 to 18 is actually drawing related topics. So you might have to find mistakes. You might have to identify certain things in drawings, but it's all there on Edge in the drawing section as well, in the explanations.
Yeah. So there's a question from Pranav. Okay. So
Yes.
he's saying that there is no PTQ in DQ Edge. All right. So
Definition.
yeah. So Pranav, I think Lian has discussed this before, right, in the beginning. Because what is a PTQ is anybody's guess. All right. It's left to interpretation because the Council of Architecture has not given any form of explanation as to what a PTQ is. However, what they have mentioned is the types of questions or the topics that have come in that you can expect in a PTQ. So the point Lian is making is that every one of these the questions can only come from these topics. Okay, that is these 18 topics. So long as you are prepared for questions in these 18 topics, you are ready for the NATA 2020 exam. All right, including and with special focus on topics 8 to 18. Right. I hope that is interesting. I hope that's clear to you, and I think that is what Leanne's been trying to say. Number one. Number two is now a few of y'all are having questions. So where do we find the question paper button which allows us to view the questions without options? All right, so we do not have access to the mock test or any of the of the platform that they're providing. So that is something, Aparna, which you yourself will probably have to figure out. I'm sure it will be clearly visible. Generally, what we are seeing is that the last mock test, and I think probably the last mock test had just about 7 or 10 questions. I think the idea of that was to do a dry run to see if things are working. All right. A lot of times, what happens is that um, you know over the past few years, what we've seen in the NATA exam when they first switched over, there have been a lot of errors. All right, and those have adversely affected students. So what they're doing now is that they're doing some planning, they're running the algorithms, um, and they're giving you a mock test, but not primarily for you, but primarily to to see that the technical part of it is solved. All right, so that is probably the objective of the mock test they're doing now, because it really doesn't make sense just giving a mock test with 7 questions, or 10 questions. So the idea of a mock test is to simulate the actual exam. All right, but yeah, looks like they're doing more testing as of now, that software testing part of it, and y'all are all part of that software test. All right. What is a review button? Again, so clarity about the review button. Yeah, so Pranav is asking, is the concept enough regardless of the type? Yes, I think Liane is going to be covering that in the next few minutes. All right, regarding the types of questions. So long as you know the format, okay, so long as you know what questions are coming and you are ready for the type of questions, whether they ask it as an MSQ, whether they ask it as an MCQ, or maybe they can give you a rating scale, whatever format they ask you the question in really doesn't matter. All right, you will be able to, the real question is, are you able to handle the paper, are you able to handle surprises? Okay, if you see a question, would you be able to face that question, whether they ask it in one manner or the second manner or the third manner? Really doesn't matter. Okay, that you will be able to face anyway. um right. So hope that. So someone, Aparna is asking clarity about the review button. Aparna, I'm not very sure what you mean by the review button. All right, but I'm not
I
entirely
think she
sure.
means on edge at the question, there's a review button.
Okay, Aparna, could you please? No, she's saying it was not there in the mock test. So,
That
um,
means you can't go back and forth.
okay. So, Aparna, I'm not very clear. If you could spend a little more time,
Leon, can I?
yeah. Leon, you can probably go ahead.
Yeah, so NATA used to have a little review button. In case you had a doubt about a question, you could click on the review, and what happens at the end of the exam is you can go back to your reviews, which means you can revisit that question. And instead of going through all the questions again, you just get the ones that you have marked as review. But if you're not allowed to go back and forth, that review button may not be there.
All right. So yeah. So Arij Kadli, sorry, is asking what is the review option in the mock test and where to review the questions without the options. All right. So yeah, so I think, and it was not there in the mock test, is what I understand. Mock test given by COA. So again, like I said, the interface of this is really not clear to us or anybody else, because none of us have actually seen it or had the opportunity to go past it. So I would probably, um, say we know the previous format it was there, but this format I'm not very sure. Okay, Anirudh is asking an
If it's
interesting.
not there, it's probably because you can't go back.
Yeah. All right, so that's probably there. Again, another clarification I interjected at a little while ago when I spoke with Leanne. I made a mistake because she said that reviewing is possible, so I went back into the NATA test. Part A, for part A, you cannot go back and forth, you can only go forward. Once you skip a question, you skip it. All right, so part A is like that. Part B, there is no specific instruction whether part B is one way or whether you can go back and forth. So that is something that you may need to look out for, but just keep that in mind. All right. Anirudh Ramesh is saying it might be a silly question, but can we use the first NATA test to get used to the pattern and then try harder for the second attempt? Anirudh, I really think you don't need to be worried. I think you can do it yourself. Your first
Give
attempt.
it your best shot. Don't go with that intention that you're going to give the second one. But give the second one anyway, because if you have a chance of improvement, why not? But you'll never know whether it will be harder or the first one. So attempt everyone like it's your last one.
Right. Okay. Um, right. So now, yeah. So then there's a question from Gauri. Are they going to take the best out of the two or the average? The answer is so far they've taken the best out of the two. So remember, NATA is a score. All right. So you can get the NATA score twice. But that score needs to be submitted to the CET cell for your rank. Okay. So the CET cell, when creating the rank, they will decide which of the two to take. And the CT cell specified last year that it'll be the best of the two, not the average. All right. So this year should be the same. Leanne, are you?
Yes?
Yeah. Can I throw a few more questions at you?
Sure, sure.
Uh, or would you like to talk about the formats available, or should we take
No, I think
questions
the
first?
formats are anyway shared with them. So, I mean, it's there in the brochure. So if questions are going to help more, we'll do questions.
Okay. Yeah. So there's another person who's saying here. My friend is willing to write the NATA, is writing the NATA exam, but does not have 50% in math. Will it be a problem in future after the course? Leon, would you like to take that?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
The question is,
Yes.
someone is taking the NATA exam but does not have 50% in mathematics. Will that be a problem on
Not
the?
this year. Not this year. They had put out a circular that only for this year, the marks will not be an issue.
Okay, so that's good. Jessica Sundar is asking, when will we get our score? Would we get it after each part or at the end of the exam?
Now that's up to COA actually.
Yeah, technically, I think it will probably be after the uh, at the end of each part.
Yeah, the score might, yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry, not at the end of each part. After the exam, after probably a week, that's when they'll get the score. That's what,
Yeah.
yeah, a week to 10 days. All right. So that's it. Just 1 second. Right. Now, a few more questions. Okay, the review button was at the bottom, is what a lot of people are saying. Since the pattern is very different, should we keep a goal or expect similar marks like the previous years? Shruti Jayaraman.
Um, Actually, why are we setting a goal? I think you should give it your best. If you have to, Dion, I really don't want to answer this one.
Yeah. So I think what I would probably say is that
A
uh,
100 plus should be a good, 120 plus would be very good. Yeah.
I mean, so every year it's relative.
Yeah,
Some
I wouldn't want to answer this one. Yeah.
yeah. So some years uh, it is what is relative would be 120 would be a good score. Some years 150 the 40 is a good score. All right. So that
Yeah.
is something that can't really be predicted. But like Leanne suggested, go and just do your best and don't worry about
Don't set a
keeping a
goal.
target. Yeah, don't set a goal as a previous year. Maybe PTQs isn't applicable because they had mentioned so, and the mock only had one PTQ. All right. So I've shared our Facebook page here. So please go through the Facebook page. We'll be, and support the students who are. So the Facebook page is dqlabs.in. Sorry, facebook.com/dqlabs. All right. PCM back and forth is surely possible. Rani Mithilesh. So, Mithilesh, Lian, there's been a lot of questions regarding PCM. Quite a few students are concerned about, preparing for PCM. What would you suggest to them?
I feel the marks weightage is not that much. I would rather focus on aptitude than I would on PCM. But if you have to, look at the CET type, MCQ type questions rather than worry about too much of information. So MCQ type questions from CET would probably be the same things that would come in this area.
So there's another question. Um, when we attempt the exam from home, will we be allowed to use rough sheets? All right. A question from Kashish Lalwani, and this is something I mentioned earlier that you will not be able to use. But however, since a few students pointed it out, and Leanne herself pointed it out, I just checked the latest brochure, and they say yes, you can use sheets,
Maybe
but
360 show of the room, you'll have to show both sides of your sheets and keep it down, but make sure there's no other stationery lying around, like
yeah,
books, especially. Books would be a problem.
and each proctor is going to monitor 12 students. So you will be monitored, and if you go off, please read the rules in the brochure. That is very important. Okay. Trisha Karthik, worst case scenario, write on your tables. Please don't do that. You don't want to take any chances. All right. Uh, yeah, Arij Kadli is asking what score means when we have cleared our NATA exam. Your NATA exam is an aptitude test. Okay, it just gives you a score, and what it means whether you have an aptitude for architecture or not is their interpretation. Or let me not put it aptitude for architecture, whether you have an aptitude for a creative program. All right. So that's the point in the test. It does not, whether you do well or not does not mean that you will be a bad architect. Absolutely not. Okay.
But
So
in the past, I think they have said 50% in each, 50% of your drawing marks and 50% of your, I mean, out of your drawing marks, you should at least get 50% in drawing section and 50% in your aptitude
I
section.
think that was 25% last year. So
Yeah, it keeps changing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, how many marks do you need to get admission into a government school through NATA exam? Depends on which government school you're referring to. Number one. Number two, the general marks is you need to. So it's a factor of your board percentage and your NATA score. So um, so you need to do well in both. All right. So, but depends. Now, if you're looking at an SPA Delhi, you need to be within the top, say, 200, 300 ranks or maximum 400, 500 ranks, okay, of JE paper 2. Last year, a student who got rank 453, she got into SPA Delhi. She had some category reservation, all right, and then it changes accordingly with other schools. Um, Yeah, so Rani Mithilesh is saying 80 plus is required. Arya Prakash is saying 150 plus. Sudhir Kale is saying 165 plus. don't focus on these marks. Just do your best. Okay. But typically, like
Sure.
if I talk, yeah,
If I have to just say something here, see, it depends. If you're applying for a college, all the people who are applying for a particular college, the one with a higher rank will get priority, and the one with a lower rank goes down. So there's no easy way of saying that you need this to enter this college. It all depends on how many people have applied for that college and who are better than you and who have got a lower rank than you. So that it's all very relative and subjective. Don't focus on the marks for now.
Ananya Krishna saying we were not able to do a connect with the proctor and we were not asked to show the 360-degree view. Yes, Ananya, that happened in the mock test. They'll probably change that for the actual test. You'll have to worry about that. Okay. Trisha Karthik is clarifying that it was a joke. Yes, Trisha, I know it was a joke, but I was just saying, uh, I was just saying, pointing it out. I don't want anyone to take that seriously. Um, how many percent? Okay, Akhil Gowda is asking what percentage in boards is better to score a very good rank in Karnataka CET. Lian, would you have an idea? Would you want me to handle that?
um, I mean, I have a vague idea, but maybe you'll be a better person to take that question.
So, yeah, so in my experience, an 80% plus in your boards, and historically I'm speaking, 80% plus in your boards, and approximately, uh, one 120, 130 plus in your NATA will get you a seat into, say, um, you'll get a rank of within the top, say, 300, 400 ranks, and any of the schools in the first 3, 400 ranks are good schools. All right.
But to
School.
be in the top 10 or 20, I think you will have to be like a 90 something in your
Yeah.
boards. Yeah.
Yes. So JJSOA depends your percentile. You need a huge percentile for that. It's very very tough to get into JJ. Students from Maharashtra will have a lot more chances because there is a significant reservation for students from Maharashtra. Okay. I think pretty much all the questions are handled. These are some questions which are not relevant to everyone from here. Um, will the board marks be out of the best of 3 or best of 6? So Ananya Krishna is asking the board marks, what they consider. Is it only PCM or is it all 6 subjects? That's what Ananya is trying to answer, right? From my experience, the previous year in 2018, they asked for all 6 subjects. Last year, they asked only for PCM. So it changes. That depends on the CET cell, what they consider. Okay. Pooja Agarwal is concerned if she's faced a lot of problems on giving the mock test. Would she face the same problems during the actual exam? Uh, the answer to that is we don't know till the actual exam starts. Uh, so we don't know till the actual exam happens, and but even if you do face problems, please don't stress about it. Don't worry. Be relaxed. Be calm. You will do it. Okay. Artland 10 is asking for JJ College of Architecture. Um, what is the percentile required? Honestly, it is tough because you need to go into the JJ website to get this information. I'm not certain. They have their own entrance process, so I'm not very certain what the percentile is or rank. But I do know our students have got fantastic ranks, fantastic scores. They've got a 90, 95% plus in their boards, plus a 140, 150 plus in NATA. All right. One thing I would like to point out at this stage, if I could share my screen. So the questions are getting repeated. These many of these questions are what we've handled before, so I'm not going to really go through with all these questions. But one of the things I want to show you, okay, how you can practice your sketching. If I can show you, hold on. Okay, how you can practice evaluation. Please go into the practice section. Okay, I hope you can see my screen. Leanne, can you confirm if my screen is visible? The
Yes.
Yeah. So please go into the practice section. Please take any of these mock tests. I know that these are old mock tests. Okay. And these mock tests you will find in this section. Okay. NATA JE, not the NATA 2020 new pattern. I'm just giving you an extra additional tip for those who are worried about PTQs. One of the ways you can practice is in this. You take any of the mock tests, you'll see the section 1 is aptitude, section 2 is sketching. Now what I need you to do is look at these questions. All right, look at each of these questions and actually do a sketch and actually upload the sketch here, because when you do the sketch you will be putting your effort or your understanding of your concepts into this paper, into here, and you'll upload it. Once you upload it, there's something that happens. Let me show you what happens. Okay, I've yeah, so once you upload it, there are two things that happen. Number one, this rating appears. All right, these rating parameters appear. So in this parameter you'll see wow factor, 3D composition. So this is your conceptual understanding, your shading, shadows, textures, drawing skills, perspective correctness. These are the questions that can also come. They can show you, maybe let me show you an example. Excuse me. So they can show you a sketch like this, okay, and they can ask you to rate the sketch. So what you need to look at these parameters here, and possibly try rating the sketches. This is also one of the possibilities of question types for the PTQs. Okay, generally PTQ is a preferential type question, which means it is a rating scale. All right, it could be a rating scale, it need not be a rating scale. To really understand the perspective correctness, you need to spend time understanding this, and this thing, and working towards it. So please use this feature. It is there in Edge. Use this feature. Get your sketches rated. You can rate your friends sketches. Please do that. It will help you uh, for your understanding. Okay, so that's something that I could share as a last uh, comment. um, right, so um, yeah, so Mamta is saying that she wasn't there for the starting of the session. Yes, if you have missed part of the session, you can access it later. uh, After we end this webinar, you can get access to it. All right, so please follow us on our channel, subscribe to our channel, and you will get the information here. Okay, I think thank you so much to all who have been here. Thank you so much, Leanne. uh,
Thank you.
okay, and we are looking forward to you doing really well in your NATA test this year. All the best to you. Please like this webinar. It's very encouraging to us if you like this webinar. It's not just sufficient that you like it, it's sufficient that you press the like button and share this with your friends as well, because that is very, very important to all of us. Okay. All the best to you. Do well. Do reach and keep in touch. And and also um, be in touch with us. Let us know how you have done after this exam. Don't just end it. It does not end here. Please reach out to us after the exam. Tell us how you've done. Give us your feedback. Oh, and by the way, next week, your NATA test is on 29th. So the next Monday's webinar is a analysis of the NATA 2020 pattern. All right. So please be there for next week's webinar. Don't miss it. We will discuss that next week. All right. Um, all the best to you all. Thank you. And I'm ending the stream right now.